Okay, Coach. Well, thank you so much for taking a little bit more time. We just want to get to know you a little bit more. Know this is your first chance to really be a head coach, and I can sense your excitement and the thrill you just have for the game of basketball. What's the one thing that you're really pumped up to be able to do that you didn't get to do with your responsibilities as an assistant?
I think, Zora, leadership is about influence, right? And as an assistant coach, it's a great responsibility, but, your influence is a little limited, right? You're usually working with a player or two, and obviously, with your responsibilities, whatever you have, scouting, player development, game planning, obviously, you want to do a great job. But being a head coach, I feel like you can expand your influence, and I've had, over 25 years experience of this game as a player and as a coach. And I want to share that. I want to pay it forward. And I couldn't ask for a better opportunity. Like I said before, this is a strong foundation already built, right? And I just want to add to it, and I feel like all the great coaches I've been on and all the players I've been around, I have a lot to pull from. I know the expectations are high here. We're going to embrace those expectations, but I do know the value of hard work and the values that were passed down to me. I want to pass down to them.
Yeah. How do you do with the idea of trust and maybe relinquishing power? So trusting that your assistants got the scout and they researched enough and watched enough film, trusting that, the players are doing their individuals or whatever it may be, or, the advice that your coaches give you is maybe something that you should put into a game. How do you do with trust?
Again, I think it comes from my experience, and I'll just share this with you. So in 2019, we were making our championship run, and we had to go through, obviously, some great competition there. And, we're getting ready to play the Golden State Warriors for in the finals. And Coach Nurse comes in my office and he sits me down and he says, "Hey, you got the defense." He said, "I trust you. You know what you're doing. Just go with it." And then I can't tell you how that made me feel. When you empower people, under you, they don't want to let you down. And so it taught me a great lesson in leadership. And that's something that, I'm going to call upon these experiences. And that, I feel like, I've just been preparing for this day for so long. And I think I'm just so grateful for all the coaches that I've been under and I've worked for, because it's going to help me lead these guys. I've worked hard, obviously, but I've been fortunate to have great mentors. And so I'm just looking forward to putting everything that I've learned into action.
Yeah. Role recognition is so powerful, right? You may not be the superstar that does everything, but if coach comes to me and say, all I need you to do is box out, you're going to make sure, that's powerful. Let's go back to defense. When did you decide that defense was going to be your thing and that you were going to get excited about defense?
I don't know if, I ever made a conscious decision that, I'm going to be on the defensive side of the ball. I think it just kind of happened organically. Being a defensive-minded player, one of the most funniest things I think as far as, the perception that people have with NBA players, I think, people know me as a defensive player in the NBA, but I grew up on an offensive player. 99% of most NBA players were offensive.
The best players on their teams when they're growing up.
Players on their team. But I figured out when I got to the NBA, this was the way I could stay on the floor. Doing the little things and taking the toughest assignments and diving on the floor. And I realized it didn't take long, wow, this is going to keep me on the floor. And then when you're on the floor, you can showcase your offense. But I did learn the value of defense, how important it is for the success of any team. I think the other thing is just playing under coaches who demanded, they were accountable on the defensive end. I played for Scott Skiles, right? He was a stickler about doing our jobs and bringing the energy on the defensive end, and he rewarded us for playing defense. And so when I started to coach with him, I had already, had the foundation and his philosophy on the defensive end, so it helped me teach it. And then I spent 5 years with Tom Thibodeau. He was very defensive-minded coach, and his philosophy was knowing your opponent better than your opponent knows you. So he put strong emphasis on the defensive end. So having played and having these coaches that were very demanding on the defensive end, obviously it did shape my philosophy and my conviction to defense.
Yeah, there's so many people that you can pull from. Right. You mentioned pressuring the ball, getting after it, creating turnovers. How do you do that combined with protecting the paint?
That's a great question. Obviously when you pressure the ball, you're susceptible to driving lanes and penetration. That's where we're going to have to be great at doing the multiple effort. We're going to be in our gaps, but when you're in your gaps, it's going to leave the three-point line open, right? So we got to be great in our rotations. We got to grade in our multiple effort and getting out and challenging shots with urgency. And then a lot of times when you're in rotations, you're going to be susceptible to the offensive boards, right? So we got to be great and boxing out in the fundamentals. So it can be done. We've done it at a high level for many years. But that's where the work comes in. We're going to teach the fundamentals. We're going to drill it, and we're going to hold the guys accountable. But talking to all the players again, everyone's excited, everyone's hungry, everyone's ready to get to work.
So that's a lot of scrambling. Are you going to have the MVP and All-Stars running in training camp then? How are you going to get them in shape for that?
Hey, listen, there's no shortcuts. Being in great shape gets overlooked. And to be a elite basketball player in the NBA, you got to be in great shape. So we're going to lay the foundation in training camp. One thing that I've learned as coaches that you can't hold them accountable to something you haven't taught them. So, and I also believe that you got to be the change you want to see. So our coaches, we're going to be the hardest working coaches in the NBA. A lot of coaches say that, but I know what it looks like. As a former player, I know the work you got to put in. You can't fool me, right? And then as a coach, just having coaches like, Scott Skiles, Tom Thibodeau, Billy Donovan, Nick Nurse, they're the elite of the league. So you know what winning looks like, and you know what it's going to take to get there.
I asked you your first business after this as a head coach, and you said relationships and continuing to build. You're always going to get questions about Giannis, right? And you all have talked, and you said you were in awe. But what about Jrue Holiday? What did you take away from the time that you spent with him?
I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this, but he invited my wife and I over to dinner, and we were just blown away. He's just as solid as it comes. His wife is wonderful. His family is wonderful. His children. I think the most impressive thing is his humility. Someone with his stature just inviting us in his home. And the funny thing about it is that I reached out to all the players, and I called Jrue, and I couldn't get a hold of him sometime, and we were texting back and forth. And I was like, man, I hope he likes me, Then all of a sudden, he texted me and said, hey, what you doing tonight? Come over for dinner. And so just sitting down with him, with his family, again, just as solid and real, very impressive. And again, I could sense the hunger in his voice as we spoke, and he's excited about getting to work. So it's going to be fun working with him. But that's what makes this team special, that you have guys like Jrue and Chris and Giannis and everyone else. We have a good mixture of veterans. We have a good mixture of the young guys. I just appreciate the openness of all the guys that I spoke to. And they're excited. I hope they don't think, I'm not going to do anything crazy. We're going to get after the ball. We're going to share the ball. Sometimes I think, if you watched us play in the past, we're flying around, we're doing all these schemes and stuff. But, our basis is the fundamentals, and you got to be able to, share the ball. You got to play for each other. You got to have the togetherness on the defensive end. You got to play hard. This is not rocket science, but they are extremely open to what we're trying to do.
Yeah. There's so many expectations. You know that. Why did you feel like you were ready for this?
Because of the path that I've taken. Being in the CBA, going undrafted, fighting and clawing my way. It's something about being on the bottom. You learn a lot about yourself. And then my faith, my father, all things are possible, through Christ, and having that strong foundation, and then having that work ethic, having the experience of working with so many coaches, playing in the NBA for 9 years. I was a starter. I came off the bench. I was a role player. I was buried on the bench. I experienced all that, and it helps me to be a better coach because I can relate to the players. I could help build that relationship and coach them how to get out of that. And then, I keep going back into the experience that I've gained, not only on the court, but off the court. I've worked hard on myself. I went back to school and got my PhD. Shout out to my wife because she stayed up with me. My wife, Kathy, and she would stay up with me many, many nights. When I wanted to quit, and she'd put a pot of coffee on, and there was times that I'm working on 10-page paper, and then I'm working on a scout. And it was very hard, but it was very important for me. Just being a coach, I would go into these interviews a lot. And in my younger days, I would take my playbook, and I have these big old playbooks on the offense and the defensive end, and I thought that's what coaching was all about. But then it dawned on me, like, it's not just about the X's and O's. Leadership is so important. So I wanted to work on that, and so I got my PhD in organizational leadership, and it's helped me tremendously. It's made me a overall, all around well-balanced coach. So I'm able to pull, from a lot of different areas of my experience and my life, and it's made me feel comfortable, sitting in this chair.
Yeah, you got your doctorate, your husband, your coach. You're also a father.
Yes.
To a couple hoopers.
Yes.
Do you still have the capability to get out there? No. I'm wondering where we're at with that.
No. It wouldn't be fun to watch because I think I would just back them down for like 30 minutes. It would take me that long. Not just going against, right. My son, AJ plays for the Hawks. My oldest son, Alan, he's playing in Dominican Republic right now. He's really good ball player. And, my youngest daughter plays for UConn. So there's some talent in our family. What people don't know is my oldest daughter, bless her heart, I'm 6'5", AJ 6'6", Alan 6'5", Aubrey 6'1". My oldest daughter is 5'6". But she was the most athletic one in the family. She could run and she could jump. Unfortunately, she tore her ACL in high school. But all my kids are, they're extremely athletic.
Yeah. Anything else you want people to know about you outside of basketball and what you're into and what you care about?
I think for me, just the way I was raised, like basketball is important, don't get me wrong. But I think the way we treat people in society, like my dad taught me to love people no matter what. And it was such a blessing to grow up not seeing color, not seeing gender, seeing my dad just love on people. And it taught me a lot about that, about life and what it really means to be a Christian. He had strong faith. He didn't just talk the talk, but he really walked it, and he set a great example for myself and my siblings. And, how we treat people in society and we just loving on everyone. And I think that approach has helped me as a coach, and it helped me put my feet in other people's shoes, Yeah, I'm truly grateful for that.
What was your dad's name?
His name was David Allen Griffin Sr.
David Allen Griffin Sr. He's super proud of you right now, Coach.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that.